Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're still coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, Radio X, the Talkstar Radio Network. Let me see, who else do we have out there, Craig? The Digital Broadcast Network and a whole bunch of other places. And if you'd like to find out more about what we're doing, what we've done, where we intend on being and doing, all you have to do is go to www.xzoneradiotv.com. You know, X-Zone Nation, are you ready for this? Sitting down? Well, there's less than 6 weeks till Christmas. I know, where does the time go? How does Christmas sneak up on us so fast? Like, there should be a law against it. Well, all right, maybe not a law against it, but you know what? I don't know about you, but Christmas seems to cause more anxiety now than it did when my kids were growing up. And when we were kids in our parents' home, I can't remember all the stress, anxiety that is showing up. So what I decided to do was bring Dr. Joe Alton on the show. And Dr. Joe Alton himself is a disaster preparedness expert. He's a member of the Wilderness Medical Society and a New York Times Amazon best-selling author of The Survival Medicine Book, The Essential Guide for When Medical Help is Not on the Way, and other books. Dr. Alton has also written the just-released and timely The Zika Virus Handbook. Dr. Alton is a well-known speaker and the host of the Doom and Bloom Survival Medicine Hour syndicated podcast. And first of all, Dr. Joe, welcome back to the X-Zone. Great having you with us. And why do people get so stressed at Christmas? Like, it's unbelievable.
Rob, thanks for having me. You're absolutely right. Christmas is supposed to be just a happy, wonderful time, but for a lot of people, it is a source of extraordinary anxiety. They have a lot of obligations with regards to getting gifts for people, perhaps putting together elaborate Christmas meals and family reunions, that type of thing. And so you do see people having a lot of issues.
Not only do you have the everyday bills to pay, but come Christmas time, you have the extra meals, the extra presents, and gifts aren't as inexpensive as when I was a kid. I know, let's see, when I was a kid, I think we got a mini brick set and a couple of cars for Christmas. Man, that was heaven to us. But now if you don't spend $200-300 on the kids, you're cheap.
It's all electronics now, video games and things like that, and these are really not inexpensive items, just as you say, Rob. And if you are living paycheck to paycheck, like a lot of people are these days, more than probably ever before, then you know that Christmas is a time that a lot of parents might just be dreading.
Let's face it, Dr. Joe. In today's society, stress is everywhere. So when you take the daily stress that you're under, add it to the stress of Christmas time, isn't this just the perfect formula for somebody going over the edge?
Oh, absolutely. From the standpoint of anxiety and also from the standpoint of depression,
right?
Christmas is a major, not such a major issue that we wind up seeing increased rates of suicide, increased rates of hospitalizations for things like depression or panic disorder, or pretty much even a type of PTSD, a post-traumatic stress syndrome that people get from the trauma of going through some of these elaborate things that they have to go through.
It's pretty bad when you get the back to school, and before school's even back, you've got Halloween, and now they're starting to mix Halloween, the end of Halloween, with the beginning of the Christmas season. Like, it's just getting a little bit too much ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm in a place called Gatlinburg, Tennessee, right next to the Smoky Mountains National Park for part of the year. And sure enough, the day after Thanksgiving, the little resort town that is right at the base of right at the entrance, really, to the national park, immediately started putting up Christmas lights.
Oh, my gosh.
So by November 3rd, there were Christmas lights all over the place. And so it is amazing how you're just going from one holiday to another, and Halloween itself seemed to have become a much bigger holiday as well.
Yes, that's true, and I think that Halloween is sponsored by the Canadian and the American Dental Association. Dr. Joe, stand by. You and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.
This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at www.drgibbswilliams.com.
This is Johanna Carroll, host of Dialogue with Divinity on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. While walking along Kaanapali Beach in Maui this past year, I kept discovering all these shells and coral in the shape of hearts. My dialogue with Divinity was very simple. Do you want me to do a retreat to heal people's hearts in Maui next year? And of course, the answer was yes. As a master spiritual teacher, I am offering you a neat retreat called Rise, May 8th through the 12th, 2017, and the chance of a lifetime to rest at a 5-star resort for 5 days and experience a spiritual renewal of your heart and soul. Kaanapali is one of the top 5 beaches in the world. This stunning resort has undergone a $40 million renovation. I walked the entire property, checked out the room choices on your behalf, and I must say it is stunning. Our conference room faces the ocean with sliding glass doors. Maui is known as Mother Maui because it is a soft, gentle, healing energy. In the embrace of Mother Maui, you will feel yourself rising from the limitations of an ordinary life to an extraordinary journey of peace, bliss, and harmony. A greater sense of clarity. Our Rise retreat ignites renewal in the sacred elements of air, water, earth, fire, and wind. There's plenty of free time to enjoy all that Maui has to offer. A small deposit is required now to reserve your space, as this retreat, it will sell out. For more details, please go to johannacarroll.com and register today. Aloha, and I'll see you in mystical Maui.
Exonation Dr. Joe Alton is our special guest this hour. His website is www.doomandbloom.net. That's DOOMANDBLOOM.net. Research showed that heart attack rates tend to increase by 33%, while Christmas shopping, which is on par with the increase while running a marathon, 88% of participants experienced tachycardia, basically a heart rhythm disorder. So what do we do, Dr. Joe? Like, there's no getting away from Christmas unless you're Scrooge, and even Scrooge had a change of heart after having the hell scared out of him by 3 ghosts.
Yeah, you know, I read this article that you mentioned, Rob, that put together a study that indicated that heart rates increased by 33% in 88% of people that are Christmas shopping. Now, this is an article. Now, wait a minute. This is a study. We have to first say that wasn't put together by Harvard or Yale. It was put together by eBay. But still, you know, want to know something? I believe it.
Yep.
Christmas shopping can be so incredibly stressful, certainly causes anxiety. You know, with anxiety, what happens is the stress hormone levels, the cortisol in your body, becomes elevated, and the brain's unable to produce the proper amount of the happy brain hormones like serotonin, which tell the brain to slow down. And so you get these physical symptoms as a result. And tachycardia, which you mentioned, is the most common one that you're going to get. And tachycardia is defined as about 100 beats per minute. The heart normally beats at a rate of about 60 to 85, 88 beats per minute would be an average person. If you're an athlete, less than that even. And although many heart conditions like let's say ventricular fibrillation or atrial fibrillation or things like fevers, hyperthyroidism can cause it, just simply going Christmas shopping, according to this study, will do it too. And you're right, the amount, that 33% is what the average marathon runner experiences an increase during the running of the marathon. And what happens now that person is very used to having tachycardia with exertion, but this is sort of a mental exertion as well as a physical exertion. And what happens is people wind up having things like dizziness and breathlessness. They can have palpitations where they feel their heart is beating fast, and lightheadedness. So these are some of the symptoms that occur. And the study you mentioned said that mental fatigue occurs just about 30 minutes, maybe 32 minutes into the shopping experience. And so that, if you think about it, if you had a heartbeat that was going 33% faster for 30 minutes or so, I mean, it is like as if you were doing pretty significant exercise. And so I guess mental and the physical fatigue follows. And that happens in all sorts of cases. Now, you can do some things about this. There are a lot of ways to relieve anxiety. And, of course, they start off with a healthy diet. Now, don't go hungry by having some energy bars, I would say, would be a good idea, or a piece of fruit around in your purse or in your pocket. And I put an energy bar rather than a piece of fruit necessarily in your pocket. Yeah. But what happens is people instead, what do? They wind up getting coffee or they wind up getting a soda with caffeine. That is no good. That's going to get you more and more tired. So that is definitely not something that you're going to want to do. So if you do that and wind up with having a little bit of something healthy to eat, it'll help you be able to maintain yourself in terms of for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're less likely to get dehydrated if you have, let's say, a piece of fruit that has a lot of water in it, and so that would help you prevent from becoming dehydrated. And also, it will prevent you from sampling some of those very, very tasty treats that they have at the local mall. Instead of going to the food court or going into that candy shop and getting something unhealthy, it will keep you healthy. Now, there's a lot of other ways, too, to deal with anxiety that's more direct, I'd say. And breathing exercises are useful. Slow, deep breaths in through your mouth, out through your nose. That's a classic way to deal with anxiety. And so that's something that would be a good thing to do. Of course, yoga and all that would be good too, but you look a little strange doing that at Macy's.
Yeah, but people are being inundated with the Christmas shopping and the shopping sprees that are now finding their ways into the Christmas season. For example, Black Friday, Christmas special Christmas special Christmas door openers, and of course post and pre-Thanksgiving, and even post and pre-New Year's. It's hard for people just to shut it out. You get it on the internet, you get it on the radio, you get it on the television, you get it in your mail.
And you know what happens is when they have these specific days, let's say Black Friday, they'll open up the place at midnight. They'll open up the place at 2 a.m, 4 a.m, some strange hour that will disrupt your sleep pattern. And so what happens is you wind up going in there sleep deprived, you maybe not be able to make the right judgments in terms of presence. So that's one thing. Plus, there's that incredible crowd of people. I mean, I don't know about you, but especially these days, ever since San Bernardino, I don't like to go into crowds, and I get a little nervous when I'm in crowds nowadays. And so I think that's another reason why people can wind up with anxiety as a result of that. Now, there are a few things that you can do that I think would be very, very important to keep on an even keel, and I think one of them is to make sure that you limit your shopping to a directed kind of, I want to get this for this person, and make them short shopping trips. If you can do that, then you won't get into that 30. If you can get it all done in a half hour or within an hour, then it's less likely that you'll wind up being overwhelmed by the shopping experience. I think that's an important thing to realize.
You see, what I do is I've learned over the years that the best thing to do is buy throughout the year so that you're not facing this onslaught of people. I've got to tell you something, Doctor. I hate shopping. I detest shopping. I detest going into a store, being pushed around like a cow, and being forced into doing things that I would not normally do if I was in a crowd. I enjoy going into a store when it's not very busy. In the summertime, I do a lot of my Christmas shopping when the prices are down. And you know what? If it's not what the person wants at Christmas time, hey, it sucks to be you, but Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing, Rob, that you can do is you can take a little of the anxiety. Some of that anxiety is not just from physical exertion, of course, of running around the mall, but it's because you're a little uncertain as to how your gift will be received. So, you know what? If you have somebody that you know is going to expect a Christmas gift from you, why don't you just ask them, what would you like as a Christmas gift this year?
Exactly.
I mean, make it simple. What is it that you would like to have? And if you can do that, then it takes all this agonizing that people do about, well, should I get this? Should I get that?
Yep.
And it probably will cut your shopping time by 2/3, I would think.
See, another little thing that I do, Doctor, is if I haven't completed all my Christmas shopping by the beginning of October, I just buy gift cards for people. The $50 or $100 gift card, Visa card, MasterCard, prepaid cards. This way they can buy what they want. And then I have no responsibility on buying, or chance of buying them a gift they don't like.
Yeah. Well, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, think about it. I mean, basically everything relating to getting Christmas gifts, we have to realize it's a thought that counts. And many members of your family would appreciate a gift card to their favorite store or to any store that is part of what their interest is, the sports authority or something like that. If you have somebody who's into sports, or anybody's favorite clothing store, let's say, or even just a general department store like Macy's or whatever you might have up in Ontario, and have that. But a lot of people say, well, you know what, that is so impersonal. But the truth of the matter is, you give them that card with a Christmas card that has a note on it saying how much you love that person. You know what? It's worked for me over the years.
Plus, when did Christmas become so commercialized? I thought Christmas was all about family, unity, love, harmony, not stress.
That is what our traditions state that is, but it's been a long time, I'll tell you, that Christmas has been extraordinarily commercial. You know that in 1949, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was created by a department store employee who, as a promotion for a big sale that they were having around Christmas. So it's been a long time that we have made Christmas into this big commercial, high-stress enterprise. You probably have to go back 100 years to really see any type of really knowing the reason for the season, as they say.
I can honestly say that that's the way it was when I was a kid at home. That Christmas, to us, meant the family getting together. It was more of what I call the true meaning of Christmas, instead of the commercialistic aspect that we look at today. I guess my family was the original Charlie Brown Christmas tree gang.
Well, you were very lucky, but I'll tell you, these days there are very few families that are exactly like that have Christmas exactly the way you had it. I mean, we are under such stimulation overload, load rather, from all the electronics and from walking around with our heads, our noses stuck in our smartphones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it surprises me we don't walk into lampposts more.
That's true. And, of course, with 6 children that Laura and I have and the 9 grandchildren, Christmas is a very stressing part of the year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Rob, you'll never have to prove your courage in any other way.
Dr. Joe, please stand by. You and I have to take our break. X-Zone Nation, Dr. Joe Alton is our very special guest. I just got another gray hair, thanks. His website is www.doomandbloom.net. And the good doctor and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. By the way, one quick question, X-Zone Nation. How many of you out there listening tonight would like to be part of UFO history? I know I've said this many times. You're going to keep hearing me say this until the middle of next year when the CubeSat for Disclosure is launched in the Mojave Desert. Visit www.cubesatfordisclosure.com. I'm Rob McConnell. Dr. Joe Alton and I return on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Welcome back, and to all our American listeners, wherever you may be on this great big world of ours, a very happy Thanksgiving to each and every one of you, and thank you for sharing your time with us here in the X Zone. And Dr. Joe, to you and your family, a very happy Thanksgiving.
And same to you, Rob.
Dr. Joe, not only do we have stress at holiday time, we talked about Christmas, we've talked about Halloween and how each holiday kind of melds into each other. But let's take this Christmas season and then the stress our American listeners are having to deal with post-election trauma and getting ready for your new president. What is it, 60 days from now he gets sworn into office?
That's right, January 20th.
How, this must be a double whammy for a lot of people.
Well, I think that we have had a situation where there have been a lot of people, a lot of animosity. I mean, this country is so polarized. People that don't believe what other people believe are now considered, instead of just basically people on the other side of the fence on a particular issue, they now they consider them actual enemies. I mean, and there has been, there was a milder form of this when President Obama was elected originally, and even more with his reelection from people on the side that are happy now because Donald Trump was elected. And there is absolute shock on the part of the folks who have actually had pretty much everything going their way for the last 8 years. And this shock it's scary because they believe that Donald Trump has personal characteristics. They believe he's racist. He believes he's sexist.
Sure.
And certainly he's crude, and he's certainly coarse. But it's hard to say, it's hard for me to say what's in his heart. And I just think that people are having a difficult time. Let's put it this way. Half of the country is having a difficult time. That half didn't have a difficult time in 2008 and 2012. They're having a difficult time now. And just like 2008, 2012, we probably will do okay. We probably will survive this. And so it's a matter of trying to, I just wish that we could have a civil discussion in this country, in the United States.
I remember during the election, the stock markets started going down when it was seen that Donald Trump was, against all odds, going to win the electoral vote. And yet today, the Dow closed its highest ever.
I actually believe that would not be one of the biggest issues now. I believe I predicted the protests, and I predict for your listeners now that it's going to be 4 years of nonstop negative coverage of Donald Trump, whether even if he turns out to be Mother Teresa.
Yep.
But I'll tell you one thing, that it's going to be a heck of a thing if we just can't get it together and have some kind of civil discussion. This is something that I can't even. I have trouble putting it into words. I mean, that's how disgusted I am with the state of affairs.
But you know what, Dr. Joe? I think that a lot of this negativity is not being caused by the people, is not being caused by the political pundits, is being caused by the media. The media, I have never been so ashamed in all my life to be a member of the media than I am these days when I see how the media is abusing the system in order to get advertisers and ratings. If it don't bleed, it don't lead.
Wow. Well, you know what? It's sensational. Basically, the media. Donald Trump is a creation of the media.
That's right.
Donald Trump said things that were crude, that were coarse, that he was not eloquent, and he immediately became a media darling during the Republican primaries.
Yep.
And took out a lot of other people that you might argue were more qualified to be the Republican candidate. Now, the people who, same people who did this, once he became the candidate, I mean, were completely biased in their support and pretty out front about it with their support of Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
And so, and I think what's happening is I think we've had a real wake-up call, hopefully, to the media, although I really believe that they do have a limited ability to learn, forgive me, but this is, I think, is a wake-up call that perhaps their arrogance in assuming that they have their finger on the pulse of the American zeitgeist is they couldn't be more wrong as to what Americans, or at least a majority of Americans, feel in this country these days.
I agree with you, and this was most, this could be seen so clear the final day of the election when all the pollsters were dead wrong. They were dead wrong, and yet I'm sitting up here in Canada, and of course I'm out of the box, and I'm saying, you just weren't looking at what the people wanted. You weren't listening to the people. It seems that what the pollsters were taking was what the politicians wanted and not the people. And it's the people that put the politicians in power. And I think what happened here, and correct me if I'm wrong, sir, is that instead of it being I, the person, it has gone back to we, the people.
Wow. You are the first Canadian interview that I have had that takes that stand. I'll have to say, I've been on CTV and I've talked to a number of radio hosts from north of the border, and you are the first Canadian broadcaster that actually has made quite a bit of sense. You are a wise man, Rob O'Connell.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. It's well felt coming from a gentleman like yourself. I believe that the people, once the media settles down and lets the people kind of lick the wounds, it happens. This happens no matter, grief sets in. And people say, well, grief is only when you lose somebody. No, grief is when you change a job. It's when you get fired from a job. It's when you move. Grief is there. You need to settle your grief. And I think that as long as the media keeps pouring gas on the fire or iodine on the open wound, it's not going to happen. I believe, and this is just my own personal belief, that it's time that the media stops glorifying certain aspects of the news. For example, the Black Lives Matter, the different protests covering a white alternative group in Washington, D.C., and then having the clip go on every 10 minutes, and then having different people comment on the clip who are just going to keep stoking that fire. If you don't pay attention to them, it's going to fizzle out. I'm an ex-cop, and I always believed when I was on the job that there are certain things that need the attention. There are certain things that you need to control. There are certain things that you just have to let be and let happen, because if you excite the group, you're actually causing more harm than good.
You're absolutely right. And you know what is happening is that the media has made every effort to show the most blatant disrespect for the people who voted for Donald Trump, and I mean, I would even say an unprecedented amount to even Donald Trump's wife, Melania Trump.
Yeah.
But I saw a nationally broadcast imitation by some supermodel of Melania Trump, making fun of her accent and making fun of her look, I guess. And yeah, I don't remember in 8 years seeing anything like that for Michelle Obama. Yet I don't know what Melania Trump has done wrong other than marrying Donald Trump.
I look at life differently, as you can gather, as you've gathered by now, than a lot of people in the media. I look at politics, even up here in Canada, as a country is a company. It's a business. You know, the Prime Minister, or in your case, the President, is the CEO. The members of Cabinet are the directors, board of directors. And we citizens are the shareholders. So if you're going to have someone at the helm of a business, who would you rather have, a politician or a business person? I myself would rather have a business person, as is most evident by the Prime Minister of Canada that we have now. It takes a business person to understand business in order to get the company to grow and prosper. And I think that, once again, being outside of the box north of the 49th, that Donald Trump is going to do this for the United States. I haven't heard anything negative that he has said about the trade deals, about NATO. In fact, it made a lot of sense. Hey, why should the United States keep flipping the bill for NATO?
Yeah. All of the things that Donald Trump is, is accused of saying, unless I have heard them myself, and unfortunately, and some of them I have heard. I really have trouble believing that they were put out there in context, because taken out of context, a lot of what he says could be offensive to a lot of people. But what he actually means, I think what our problem with Donald Trump is that he's just not eloquent. Okay, if he was more eloquent, like President Obama, for example, or many of these other politicians, then I think that it would be a lot easier for us to, be able to function. But we don't have somebody who is eloquent, and since we don't have someone who's eloquent, we just have to find somebody that is willing to do the job. And if they are willing and capable of doing the job, well, there you go.
But the job was given to him by the people. And I think that this says a lot for what the people want, the change that they want. They know that there's certain changes to be done. If the establishment, and by extension Hillary Clinton, was not going to do what the people wanted, then, I hate to say it, but you guys were caught between, you really had the worst of the worst.
Yes, we had a couple of candidates that couldn't beat anybody else that would be running against him. If they had picked any other Democrat, Donald Trump probably would have lost.
Got it.
If they had picked any other Republican, Hillary Clinton would have lost. And it is, and she ended up losing against Donald Trump. And
all right, Joe.
High negatives.
Joe, I hate to do this. I've got to take my final break. Please stand by. Exo Nation, Dr. Joe Alton is our special guest. doomandbloom.net.
As host of Dialogue with Divinity, I am thrilled to join the X-Zone Broadcast Network and their growing number of affiliates. My quest for a connection to the divine ignited my successful career path as an international spiritual counselor for over 40 years, and author of 4 books, and well-known metaphysical educator. My clients call me their spiritual mama. So my job is to offer you a radio show to help you grow spiritually with wisdom and get specific tools from guests who are experts in their field. Tune in to Dialogue with Divinity and be part of the conversation with Spirit. My goal, your happy soul. For more information, please visit my website at johannacarroll.com.
Coming soon to the X-Zone Broadcast Network is A Different Perspective with me, Kevin Randall, as your host. We'll be taking a close look at what is happening in the world of UFOs today with side trips into the paranormal. Guests will range from those who are household names to those who have a different perspective on a variety of topics. No topic will be taboo, but there will be tough questions asked as we all search for the truth about UFOs, the paranormal, and those things that excite us. Sometimes we'll agree with a guest and sometimes we won't, but we'll try to keep the program topical. For those of you who would like to read, be sure to visit www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com and remember to listen to the other fine programs on the X-Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net. This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold.
Welcome back, everyone. Dr. Joe Alton is our very special guest this hour. Dr. Joe was a disaster preparedness expert. He's a member of the Wilderness Medical Society and the New York Times Amazon best-selling author of The Survival Medicine Handbook, the essential guide for when medical help is not on the way, as well as other books. Now, if you know anyone who is into winter sports, who goes skiing, skidooing, goes winter hiking, this book would be the perfect gift for Christmas. I really do suggest it, and Dr. Joe's website is doomandbloom.net. Joe, the last time you were on, you and I were talking about the Zika virus. How come we don't hear about it anymore?
Well, the Zika virus was recently taken off the list of the quote global emergency list by the World Health Organization, but we still are dealing with increases or a steady rise in the number of at least travel-related cases that are entering the states. We are now at 36,000 cases in the United States and in Puerto Rico. Of course, the great majority of those are in Puerto Rico, which is still suffering from a lot of locally infections acquired by local mosquitoes. Here in the U.S., down here where I am, just a few miles away, is the Zika zone, and there have been 230 cases that are locally acquired here. The rest of about 4,000 or 5,000 cases in the U.S. are all travel related. Now they found out a number of things about Zika. They found that it may cause infertility in males.
Wow.
They found that mice that are infected with Zika virus have a long-term issue with fertility. So they don't know whether that actually translates to humans. They're trying to figure that out right now. But that's one new thing that's happened. Also, there is a vaccine called ZPIV that has come up since we spoke last, Rob. It's the Zika Purified Inactivated Virus Vaccine, and it has shown some promise, and we're very happy to hear about that. It's in human trials now. It's been shown to be effective and safe in animals. Now we have to see if the same holds for humans. So that's something else. Also, folks at the University of Washington have identified an antibody which possibly can prevent Zika defects from occurring in babies in pregnancies that are infected with Zika virus. So there's a lot going on. We're going to have a quiet time here in the U.S., of course, as winter approaches. But you have to remember that in Brazil and the places that had the most cases of Zika virus last year, or in the earlier part of this year, well, they are just now heading into their summer. So as things get hot and wet down in South America, we are probably going to see an uptick in cases again. It'll be interesting to see whether it reaches anywhere near the proportions that it did this summer.
Dr. Joe, we're coming to the Christmas season, as we were talking about in the first and second segments of the show, and these days a lot of people travel down south. I know that Laura is planning a vacation for us in February, go down to Florida, get on a cruise ship, and away we go. Do you have any medical preparedness advice for people who are going to be traveling over the Christmas holidays?
Well, I certainly think that it's important to make sure that wherever you travel, if you're going to, for example, I may head up to visit a daughter in New York City, and what I'm going to do is make sure that I'm taking a pair of very comfortable shoes. I'm going to be doing a lot of walking, and blisters are a big issue for people, even in, believe it or not, cruise ships, because the cruise ships are so huge these days that you indeed can get pretty tired if you do a lot of walking on the cruise ship. So make sure you have a comfortable pair of shoes. I think that is very important. By the way, that is also a source of stress and anxiety during Christmas shopping as well. If you don't have a nice pair of broken-in shoes while you're traveling in the mall, then you indeed might wind up having discomfort, and that could raise your heart rate as well. So those are some things to watch out for if you're traveling in cold weather. For example, somebody like myself who's not used to icy sidewalks, you have to remember that is a health hazard and that you have to watch your step. That's something that's very important. And make sure when you travel that you have a medical kit with you. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy. Some antiseptics, some Band-Aids, maybe some gauze, I think would be useful. And you might consider asking your doctor for a prescription for an antibiotic to prevent traveler's diarrhea, I guess is the best way to put it. If you're going to a place where the water might be questionable, that is certainly an issue. And you have to remember that there's a lot of norovirus, with the most common intestinal infection outbreaks that we see on cruise ships.
That's right.
So please don't it's called norovirus, and it causes a type of intestinal infection which makes you vomit and have diarrhea, and it could make you pretty miserable. There's some cruises in which actually there are 100 people that wound up getting this infection. So that's something to watch out for as well. Make sure that you're eating only fresh food.
Vaccines. I'd just like to ask you a question about vaccines. There's a lot of controversy about vaccines and the mercury content that certain vaccines have. What is your opinion, your professional opinion about vaccines?
Well, you know that thimerosal and other substances that are in vaccines that they use oftentimes as preservatives or as part of the preparation are controversial. Many of the studies say that there is not a major issue related to it. However, there are a lot of vaccines now that do not contain these substances, and I think they're working to try to eliminate them as much as possible. You have to remember that that not all vaccines are created equal. It probably is a good thing to have a smallpox vaccine when they gave it to everybody back then. It probably just about eliminated smallpox from the world. And also it's probably good to have a polio vaccine. But influenza vaccines, for example, even though they're recommended in everyone over the age of 6 months in the United States, they are not always as effective from year to year. It depends on how much the virus has changed from the previous year. Vaccines are made from inactivated dead viruses in most cases from the previous outbreak. And if there's been just a mild drift of the genetics of the virus, and it's very similar to the previous years, then it's going to be a very effective vaccine. However, if there's a shift, what we call a sort of an abrupt, significant change in the genetics of one vaccine from one virus from year to year, well, then that vaccine may not help. As a matter of fact, in 2014, the influenza vaccine was only 19% effective against the influenza that year.
Wow.
And so that means that 80% of the people essentially had the same chance of getting getting influenza that year, whether they had the vaccine or not. Ordinarily, you're looking for maybe a 70% protection rate. And so it just changes from year to year. This year, it's H3N2 is the main vaccine. The H and the N numbers that you'll see written next to the influenza virus that indicates its type basically are just the certain types of proteins that coat the outside of the virus. So that's how they identify individual viruses. It was H3N2 last year, and it appears to be mostly H3N2 this year. And so we're hoping for a relatively effective vaccine in this year. Now, having said that, there are some cases of H1N1 swine flu that have been identified as well, and we'll have to see. Pretty much December to March is going to be the time where we'll see the most cases, and we'll see which of the viruses turns out to be predominant this year.
Dr. Joe, as always, great talking to you. We've got about a minute left. Tell our listeners about your podcast and how they can listen to it.
We have two podcasts. The Survival Medicine Hour, Doom and Bloom Survival Medicine Hour, is myself and my lovely wife, Nurse Amy, who is an advanced registered nurse practitioner, and we talk about medical issues, and we talk about them oftentimes with regards to what happens in bad times. What do you do when the ambulance is not heading in your direction? So that's one thing that's important. Our other podcast is called American Survival Radio, and it is a current events and political podcast. Certainly something that is a little bit center of right, but it is something that we have a great deal of fun with regards to talking about that. Most of the time we talk about medical stuff, but we talk about current events as well, and I really enjoy it.
Dr. Joe, Again, thank you so much for joining us. Always a great pleasure talking to you, and I look forward to the next time you and I meet back here in the X Zone. Until then, my friend, take care of yourself and keep the great work up.
God bless.
Take care, Joe. X Zone Nation, for more information on Dr. Joe, visit his website, www.doomandbloom.net. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away.